Sometimes we can get so involved in our painting that we will place things so they actually squeeze the space. Let me show you what I'm talking about. When we're doing realistic painting, whether we're doing portrait, still life, or landscape, we must realize that we are dealing with images in space. And sometimes these images won't just be lined up horizontally with each other, but they're lined up in depth with each other. So we might get so involved in where those images are lined up horizontally that we neglect to notice that if we align those images in depth, in tangents, which I'll show you in just a moment, it actually squeezes the space and it distorts that illusion of depth. Now, I want to show you 3 examples of what I'm talking about. One example, we'll start out with our Snuffy Smith house from our previous quick tip on tangents. So one thing that is easy to do if you're not careful, so we have this house, okay. In front of the house, suppose there are trees or vertical tree trunks, or suppose there are telephone light poles, whatever those poles are called anyway, or anything that happens to be vertical. And if we're standing right in front of the house and we're not paying attention, we might just, let's say if it's a tree trunk, let's say it started right here, then if we scoot that tree trunk so that it goes right up through the apex of that house, like that, what we're doing there is creating a spatial squeeze. I'll just kind of feel that trunk in there so that you can see the thing. See what it feels like? It feels like a distortion of space there, where it feels like because that tree is intersecting that apex, it makes them feel merged together. And so, better idea for that, let's just take the tree away. The better idea for that, even though the tree you might be looking at is sitting in that position, just move it over. You can move it over to either side, it doesn't make any difference, but you can see if you move the tree over here, we've got to be careful now that we don't actually also repeat the line of that of the edge, that we talked about that one for our previous quick tip, but you can see that if you just move the tree over just a little bit, you can move it this way or that way, then you begin to feel that there is actual space between the tree trunk and the building. So that's one kind. Now let's take the tree trunk away and let's look at another kind of tangent that will distort space, or I like to think of squeezing space. So let's just put those edges back on there. Now another thing, well, this was kind of interesting. It's kind of funny and interesting to handle. If there happens to be a grove of trees behind there, or bamboo, or anything that is up straight, we have to be careful that if they're behind a building, we don't make them look like antlers. And so what I'm talking about there, it also squeezes space. So say you had tree trunks behind that building, and you had one growing up just behind the building like that, and then you have another one coming out of the building like that. I won't take it on up. And then you have another one coming out of the building like that. And now we look like we have antlers on the building. So how do we adjust that space? My suggestion there, if they're there, de-emphasize the value or somehow interrelate the value or other shapes. Chances are there's going to be something else behind that. So there might be, get stuck on mountain ranges, but why not? There might be a mountain range that would be behind those trees, and so it would be better then. And of course don't have equal space between them. So let's see, I will first of all change the spatial relationship so that we have them not equally spaced. But then if we adjoin the values here and have the values of the tree trunks that happen to be behind that building, have the values of them relating somehow, and this in a close value relationship between the values of whatever happens to be in distance, like that. And also it wouldn't hurt to relate them to the house itself. Now a lot of that depends on how the light would shine upon it. So if the light is coming from this side and the house roof is in shadow, then that would be easy to do, because then you would relate that value in darks. sort of like that, and you see that cuts down on that feeling. So you can adjust the spatial thing with your use of lights and darks if you simply consider what things are in shadow and what things are not in shadow, in the case that you have vertical things behind houses or buildings or even rocks. Buildings especially seem to have that seem to carry that problem with them. Now, of course, if the light is coming here and shining on this, the best way to handle that would be some light area shining on the mountain as well. Then you would have light shining on the tree trunks. So you simply allow the light, or give more emphasis to the light that would be on the tree trunks. I'll see if I could do that with this. Let's take away this and this and this. Yeah, now we want to break up that just a little bit like that, and kind of break up those images and just adjust them and have the emphasis on the light of the that's hitting the tree trunks and the roof, and then that would help. So this one is a tricky one to work with, but the easiest way to solve that one is with value. Also, another way I might mention this is to soften those edges of those vertical shapes that might be behind a building. So there's another example of a place where we need to handle the space really carefully. Now, a third one is what I call a skimmed edge, but it also has that feeling of squeezed space. So to show you that one, I'm going to take away the house and take it all away. Let's just take it all away, because that one, you see this one especially when you see, well, I could have used it with a house, but I'm going to just have a different image, just so we have a mountain range, right? Something like that. All right, and something like that. Now, and let's say, and this is where the earth, or where we sort of have that division of the whatever would be the flat surface in the mountain. Then we have some trees. Here we go again. Anything that's vertical. Here's what we want to avoid. No matter where those trees are placed, and no matter where you see them, you do not want the tops of those trees to end at the top of the mountain. That too creates that squeezed space feeling. We don't feel the overlap. So, so you get something like this. I say, let's just throw a few little tree shapes in here, and something like that, and trunk right here. Tree shapes here, here, here. See, like that. Now you see that feels like that kind of touching the top like that. It feels like it's skimming the mountaintop. It's squeezing that space. You're not feeling that distance between, or that spatial distance between the tree and the mountain. However, you can take it up just a little bit, like that, or you can bring it down just a little bit, like this, and problem solved. So we just need to fill that space between the tops of anything vertical and anything that's horizontal that's behind it, whether it be a mountain range or a house roof or anything like that. So, if you found this quick tip helpful, why not explore our full-length instructional videos found at DianneMize.com. We've got numerous downloads and DVDs of tutorials. Give it a try, and there's your quick tip.